I think it's pretty cool that your mom and dad take you to all these, and the dedication that they put in to make sure you get to go to all these tracks, and the work that NASCAR has done to help you be able to get in. And I mean, there's not many people who can drive up the NASCAR trailer and yell for Mr. Helton to walk out, and he walks out and you greet him.
When Gavin was a baby, like a little bitty baby, 2-3 months, it just so happened that racing was on TV, and Bert was holding him, and he was mesmerized by it. And I think that's how his love of racing began, was as an infant. And it wasn't long after that that we kind of clued in, and we began letting him watch it a lot. And then by the time he was 2 years old, he knew every driver, what state they were from, who sponsored them, what their number was, more facts about these race car drivers than most adults knew. So we knew right away that it was his thing. The first actual race we took Gavin to, I think was in spring of '06, and we went to Atlanta. Gavin was so excited. We got there, and then there was a rain delay, and I think it ended up being maybe Tuesday before we actually got to see the race. But you would think that the excitement would be, you'd be over it by the time you'd been through all this wait and wait and wait. But for Gavin, it was different. The longer we waited, the more excited he got. And the first time the cars came by just on the pace laps, he was just shaking. He was so excited. And then when the green flag flew, I've never seen someone, it was like an electrical shock.
We thought he was going to get up and dance.
He was just in his element. We knew that was his thing for sure. One of my favorite Gavin early racing memories is Gavin's 6th birthday. We had planned to go to Kansas to the race, and we didn't tell him. And I made a scavenger hunt, made up probably a dozen different clues to read to him along the way. And we picked him up from school early, and he was surprised, and we're like, we're going on a trip. And we didn't tell him where we were going, and so we just started giving him clues. So about the time we got to Springfield, Missouri, though, he put 2 and 2 together, and something was said about the NASCAR race, and he was like, NASCAR, we're going to Kansas, we're going to the race. And he was pretty excited that trip.
Yeah, he was pretty wired up. Once he figured out where we were going
and
what we were doing, he was pumped.
We always knew that Gavin would get a Make-A-Wish. It just so happened that one of my very best friends was a wish granter, and also a pediatric nurse at the clinic where Gavin went, where he was seen by a pediatrician. And so we knew that Gavin would get a wish, but we also we wanted to wait until it was Gavin's wish. We didn't want to go when he was 2 or 3 and it be something that he couldn't remember or not special for him. But we had a sneaking suspicion that when he got to make a wish, that his wish would have something to do with racing. So my friend June came over one day and interviewed Gavin and asked, what are your top 3 wishes? And of course, his number 1 wish was to go to the Daytona 500. And so there wasn't much surprise for any of us when that was what his wish was. So tell a little bit about what happened about his wish.
Joey Logano was contacted, and they asked if he wanted to come to Harrisburg to I guess, help grant the wish, and he did. Was a little apprehensive because he was just, I don't know, about 18, 19, something like that at the time. And the one thing I remember was when he got here, he asked June if Gavin could talk. And she was like, "Oh yeah, he can talk."
The first time I met Gavin was back in 2009, I believe, maybe 10. I think it was 2009. And it was for a Make-A-Wish. And they invited me to come up and visit Gavin in Arkansas and invite him to the Daytona 500. Because I heard he was a big race fan. He was a Logano fan. And we thought, oh, this would be a fun experience. So I flew up there. And it was at the high school there. And everybody was in the gym. And they had like some kind of event going on. Like all the kids were playing games and stuff. And we acted like I was going to Zoom call you.
But actually, Joey was
in
a room there on campus. And so the computer mysteriously lost connection.
It malfunctioned. And while they were trying to get the computer back going, Joey came walking up from behind. And Gavin was, once again, he was a little starstruck. He was excited. And
it was one of the coolest things I ever saw.
It definitely was.
And for me, one of my favorite parts, there's a YouTube video that shows that little setup and the wish granting. And but my very favorite part is at the end. If you know Gavin, it's very difficult for him to raise his own arms. But at the end, Joey goes to high five him, and you can see Gavin with all of his might in his little arm raises his hand up to meet Joey's hand. And for me as a mom, I could see the pure joy in Gavin's eyes, and in his heart was just glowing. So, and it also shined through to Joey, which started
a whole
nother thing, friendship,
a lifelong
friendship, and friendships, because it has grown from not just Joey's family, his wife, his wife's family, his children, but then the crew members, the people that have worked with Joey, his PR people,
past crew and present crew.
Cannot count the number of people that Gavin has met because of just a little wish.
And the rest is history from there. That was a long time ago now. So there's a racetrack in Memphis that we used to go to a lot to go test at. And that's about an hour from Gavin's house or so, I'd say. And so at the time, they had a Penske Mustang rental car. It was a Hertz Penske Mustang rental car. And we used to get them sometimes as a race car driver. They give you the cool rental car. And so at the test, we were there and Gavin was there, and it's a cool car. And we were at a racetrack. It just seemed like the right thing to do is to give Gavin a ride.
It was all fine and dandy until one of the higher ups of Hertz, I think it was the CEO of Hertz.
Yes.
And anyway, I think it was the CEO of Hertz came in and ate lunch with them and asked what Joey thought about that Mustang, and then was telling him about things that people who rented them did to them. And Gavin was sitting in there, and I thought, oh no, Gavin's about to spill the beans. But Gavin stood there, he sat there in his chair with the biggest smirk on his face, and Joey and him were just cutting eyes back and forth at each other. And I thought, these two are trouble.
I'd say the first time I remember hanging out with you was probably the wedding, wasn't it? At the wedding, like we text back and forth a lot, and I think I met you once or twice at a racetrack before. The first time we really like hung out was whenever you were a groomsman in Joey's wedding, and I'd say the fondest memory I have of that was the ride from the wedding to the reception, and you bouncing around, and I thought I almost dropped you off the back of the truck. And I was, for some reason, held responsible for you that night.
When Gavin shows up at the racetrack, what does that make you feel?
Pressure, because Gavin is the biggest critic of everyone, and if you do bad when Gavin's here, he's going to make you feel even worse because he wants to be in victory lane, because he's expected to be in victory lane, and like the show is for him to get to victory lane, and the trip to and going around the pit stalls and getting around the racetrack. So like honestly, there is more pressure to get to victory lane when Gavin's here.
Not because, and it's not more pressure because we don't want to let him down. It's just that I don't want to hear
You
the
don't want to hear
grief
the
afterwards.
Yeah, why'd you do that?
Oh,
Why'd you do this?
Yeah. Why'd you make that move?
Yeah, he blamed AJ missing his pit box on me, and all I have to say is 10 away.
One of my favorite things about going to NASCAR races with Gavin is to get to see him in his element and with true friends. He can't wait to get there as soon as the garage opens every day of a race weekend. And it's not just to see Joey, which he loves to see Joey and loves to hang out with Joey, but it's also people he's met that have been on Joey's crew, that are on Joey's crew. The chaplain for the NASCAR drivers, sponsors, I mean, people, owners, NASCAR officials, PR people. It's so fun to get to see him, visit with them, and talk. And they're excited to see him.
We were in, I think, Pocono. We walked into the garage, and Gavin comes wheeling in, and Harrison Burton sees him. And he just comes running just at a full sprint with the biggest smile on his face you've ever seen. Runs right up to Gavin and just starts talking, and just they just sat there and just blah, 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 just back and forth for I don't know how long. But just things like that. And then you see the crew chiefs that don't have time to stop and talk to people that will come over and talk to Gavin, and they see him and they know him, and they may not have time, but they will come over and speak and say hey, and pat him on the back or whatever before they go on. It just on and on and on.
It seems like Gavin's made some special friendships lately. Noah Gregson, a young driver who's close to Gavin's age, who's had some rough ups and downs, and it's been fun to see that he can talk to Gavin, and you can see that he kind of just relaxes, and that it's not all the pressure from just anybody coming to talk to him. So that's kind of cool to see too, that it's not a one-way street, and it's like he's in his element, he's with his people, and that's really the time where I see him the most relaxed. So Gavin had decided that we were going to go to all these tracks. We're going to go to every track in the circuit. And so, along with everything else, our schedule got affected by COVID. And we should have finished up around Gavin's 21st birthday, and we were going to go to Talladega. It fell near his birthday. Well, COVID messed us up, so that didn't get to be our last race. However, we did decide to go to Talladega for Gavin's 21st birthday. I cannot think of a better, more appropriate place for a young man's 21st birthday party. I don't think Vegas has anything on Talladega, but we did. We went, we had a great time. Lots of people, we rented an RV, his friends came, his racing friends all came by to eat, to get cookies, to sign his poster for his birthday. It was a good time. It was a good time. Ryan Blaney came with Gavin and hung out on the boulevard with him a little bit. they saw a side or two. But I think overall it was a 21st birthday trip of a lifetime. I hope we don't have to go back and do that again. I guess one of the coolest things was when Joey won the championship and we got to be there. What an unbelievable experience and night. It's not very often that your team wins the championship in whatever sport it is, and you're there to be a part of it and celebrate it. So that was a really big deal. And then for it to be someone like Joey, who we consider family, um, he's one of Gavin's best friends. So that made it extra special. And then on top of that, a month later, we get a phone call from NBC and they're wanting Gavin to be the special announcer and surprise Joey as the person that announces him. And that's a huge thing. We knew that was something that NASCAR did, and we couldn't wait to see who they chose, who it was going to be. And then they called us and asked for Gavin to do it. And I can't think of a much more special honor to be given than to do something like that. So it was a great experience. And one of my favorite parts of it was secret. Nobody, just a handful of people knew. And the team, who Gavin had gotten to be very close to, they didn't know. But they were all seated a little further back at a round table. When Gavin came out on stage and they realized that it was him, they were standing in their chairs, and I'm not sure a couple weren't like on the table cheering and screaming. So that was really, really super cool.
One of my favorite Gavin stories was when we won our first championship and we went to the banquet. And I did not realize at the time that you can have whoever you want introduce you as champion on the stage. And so I thought that was, I didn't know about it. And the biggest surprise of the whole night was Gavin comes rolling out from behind the stage, gets up there on the mic and starts talking. I was like, oh my goodness. And I remember that was like, I was really nervous to make a speech in front of like all my peers and the whole industry, and I was nervous about it. And then I saw you, and I was like, I'm good. And like from there, I felt like I was good to go. Like it was gonna be an easy thing to do. And you made me cry a little bit before I started my speech, so that wasn't quite the move because I wasn't expecting you to be there.
We recently got back from our grand tour, checking off the last two tracks of the circuit. The joke was that he's drugged me to all these racetracks all over the United States, but Sonoma was the one that I was looking the most forward to. It did not disappoint. Thank you, Camus Vineyards, for a wonderful 50th wedding or anniversary party. Another thing we got to do there that was super cool was Toyota Racing has developed a pit box that allows people in wheelchairs to sit on the top of the pit box. And that's something that Gavin has never got to do in all the racetracks that we've been to. And Gavin got to be on the pit box. So that was fabulous. I think Joey even got the pole. And when we go to the races, Gavin always likes to sit behind the pit box because he can be right there with the team and feels more a part of it and knows what's going on. So it was pretty cool to actually get that vantage point of being up, like where the crew chief sits, by being in that Toyota pit box. But of course, still, we had to get down and go to Joey's actual pit box before the race was over, so he could experience that part as well. But it's super cool, and Sonoma was a great experience. I can definitely say that I never thought I would know so much about NASCAR, and I never thought that I would travel to all the tracks that NASCAR races at. But
NASCAR will take you on every mile of I-40,
for sure, for
without
sure.
a doubt.
But I can't say that I regret it. It has been so fun to watch Gavin be in his element and to develop those friendships and to learn and to have those mentors in his life and role models to look up to. I can't think of another sport that I would rather him have followed. I'm proud to say that I'm a NASCAR fan.